One thing we did up in Calling Lake was we partnered with industry, the forestry industry, and we partnered with a post-secondary college. And so what we did was the post-secondary college, part of their job is to train forestry operators. So 6 weeks a year, they've got these $1 million simulators, and they simulate operating machinery in the forestry industry. For the rest of the year, they're sitting there doing nothing. So what we did was we partnered with industry and the post-secondary to bring those simulators for a week to our high school, and the kids got to work on the simulators. They got 5 credits in forestry. They got another 3 credits working on the simulators. And then we brought foresters out to talk to them about careers in forestry. And that was all paid for by industry. So that was a $26,000 week. And we got someone to pay for it, and the kids had an awesome week. And I think that's what's possible. And I think if we worked harder at letting people help us do our jobs, there's lots of people that want to help us do our jobs. We just got to be a little bit creative and open up the doors a little bit. And I think those are the types of things that we can do.
You're listening to Jason Wiks, principal of Guthrie School, Sturgeon School Division in Alberta. He's talking about partnerships with community organizations that benefit students. I'm Stan Baker, one of the hosts of Circle Forum, along with Shelley Steele and Steve Young. Jason points out the shift that's needed from the classroom to the principal's office and stresses that schooling is a relational enterprise.
This episode is brought to you by the words capacity building. It's about equipping the adults in the school and community to continuously improve. It means continuous learning, innovation, and creating processes to ensure that knowledge is passed on. On a more humorous note, did you know that a country of male deer with no capacity for self-improvement is called stagnation?
At the end of this episode, be sure to visit our website, www.restorative.ca, where you can find some great ideas about leadership in schools from a relational perspective. And if you enjoy this episode, be sure to subscribe on Spotify or YouTube. Shelley's away this week, so let's head over to this discussion with Steve and me, Stan. What are a couple things you would say to somebody who's new to being a principal or a vice principal? Any advice that you'd give someone new?
I think probably the thing that you need to really change your mindset is that I think you have to move away from having all that control and all those expectations that you have in a classroom. Teacher types are pretty A-type sometimes, and they need that have the next 30 seconds planned out in their minds. I think probably the biggest switch for me going from a teaching job to an admin job was the variability in my day and dealing with all those external factors that can pretty significantly impact what happens, and just being okay with that and living with that for the whole day and the whole week and the whole month and the whole year, right? And then just managing all those things, and then understanding that to prioritize that chaos, you need to go students first, you go parents second, teachers third, and then the rest of the administrivia that we all have to deal with is probably about fourth. And you have to be okay with some of those things maybe not getting done as fast and as well as you'd like to.
When I was an elementary principal as well for a while, I was coming out of the classroom. I knew how to deal with students. What surprised me was how much time I had to spend working with adults. What percentage of your day is spent working with adults, and what advice would you give for a new principal in that area?
I think it's probably 60 to 70% of my day. And between the working through challenges in the classroom, working through challenges at school, working with teachers on things that they need the support they need for the classroom with specific kids, and then doing all the follow-up work to make sure that the parents are on board and that we communicate well enough to make sure that they understand what's happening, because that's probably the most key relationship in any of those hard situations, is making sure that the parents and the teacher and the administrative team are doing the best to support the kid. And I think that sometimes new administrators don't put the time into those relationships up front. I've never had that magical interaction with a parent that solves the problem right away. It's never been a one phone call deal, right? And we can say, okay, we're seeing the same thing again. What do you want us to do? How can we help? What are you seeing at home? But that relationship with the parent is key, and that's the thing that you got to put time into. And it can be a whole bunch of time, and it probably feels like in the moment it's a lot of time that we're spending that's not getting us anywhere.
Thinking back to when you started as an administrator and then when you flipped into being a principal, is there anything that happened that just didn't go very well, just a disaster, but you learned from it?
I think making those decisions too fast, right?
Mm.
I think that the slower you can make things go, the better results you're going to have, right? And so as a new administrator, you always jump too fast. You always reach for the tool that's you think is going to solve the problem the fastest, and then you suspend a kid too fast. You don't consult the parent. You don't make sure that when both parents are maybe not in the same house, you don't consult the second parent. And so I think that those are the things that I learned the most out of, was the ones that I used the position of the administrator in a directive way, and I reached for the stick too fast, and you suspend the kid, or you're too fast with the parent, but the relationship isn't there, and you haven't built that up, and you're not in a better spot than you were a week before. But if you build on that relationship with the parent and the kid, then you're in a little bit better spot when the kid does the same thing again. And then it gets a little bit better.
Yeah, very much. And like you said, you started out with an authoritarian position and a stick. How would you describe the position that you're taking now, and what picture would you use to describe how you approach it?
Well, I think you got to start with that idea that this is a very long journey, right? This is a marathon, not a sprint. Mom and dad and kid and you have to enter into a long-term relationship, and you need to work hard at identifying those gaps, identifying the things that we can use to make sure that when the student walks into the school, no matter what that behavior is or what that thing that we're working on is, every day they're going to have a chance, right? And every day they're going to have that opportunity to show you that they want to learn, they want to do what the adults in the building want them to do, and hopefully one day out of 10 they're going to get there, and that's going to be a good day. And I think that those are the things that we have to focus on and celebrate, and then maybe next month it's going to be 2, right?
What are some of the things that you do to intentionally build relationships with students, with teachers, with parents?
I'm out of the office, I'm greeting kids, I'm in the hallways, I'm talking to kids all the time. And when parents are dropping kids off at the front of the building, I'm out there, I'm saying good morning, I'm saying hi, they know who I am. And then it works because the kids are all giving me high fives in the hallway and all those kinds of things. So I'm present. And I think that is something that people sometimes overlook because of the crazy sometimes and the busy, right? It's pretty easy. I don't have a teaching load here. I could sit in my office all day and do paperwork if I wanted to, right? With staff, it's the same thing. And so you got to make sure that those relationships are as strong as you can, and you do intentional things to build those things up, right? And that's just all those personal touches. How's it going? And when things go a little bit bumpy, right? Someone's mom dies, or we got a sick kid, or we've got all those things that happen in life. We've got a weekly meeting on Tuesdays at 1:30, and we just sit down, we talk about our high flyers and what are we doing and how we doing. And everybody takes a job, and we say, okay, the attendance is this one is hard. We're seeing some improvements, but we just need a little talk with mom and dad just to see how else we can help, right? And so we still do that, and we do that every week, and we don't slough it off, and we try to make sure that those kids who most need it get the supports that they need best we can, right? With limited resources.
And Now, when you look around your school, there are some teachers and staff members who might make good school administrators.
Yeah.
What do you look for?
I'm actually pretty intentional about succession planning, and I think it's something that we don't do a very good job of. What I would look for in the teachers that I think would be good leaders is the ones who understand that relationships are king, that demonstrate to me when they deal with parents and when they deal with kids and they deal with other staff, that they're always looking for that positive, and they're always trying to make sure that if there's something that needs doing, they do it. And they are looking for those opportunities to make the school better. And they're looking to make everybody in the community and the school better, right? They've got that attitude of, yeah, let's go do that. And so that's what I'm looking for. I've got a couple that we're trying to get going. It's hard. It's a hard sell these days.
Now, in the Indigenous community that you were a part of, there was a lot of trauma. How
Yep.
did you, as a leader, deal with that trauma for your students and for your staff?
It's chronic and it's persistent, and it is just part of the fabric of your day-to-day existence, which is something that is significantly different than any other type of community that you're going to work in Canada, right? The type of trauma that we're dealing with was lots of accidental death, lots of overdoses, lots of suicides, lots of homicides, lots of gang related incidents. So it touched everybody multiple times all the time, right? So you're constantly grieving, right? And especially in Indigenous communities, there's protocol and there's a cultural aspect to all of those things that has to be attended to. And so to try to make that work in a kind of settler school with the structures that we have was problematic, right? So what you do is you take a look at your expectations, see what is needed. You need to meet the community where it's at. And when that kid dies in that quad accident, understand that your next 2 weeks or next 3 weeks or next 4 weeks are going to be different than the thing that you planned in your year plan. And that's just what is, right? And so there's a couple aspects to that. It's going to be hard on the whole community. I don't care what type of community you're in. A kid dies in your school, it's a thing, right? And so we do all those normal things that you would do in Nepean. You would get out your grief counselors and you would get out that team and they would come swoop in and they would do their thing. And we are very good at the short term. We are awful at the medium term, and we are awful at the long term. But that happens. But the other additional thing that happens in small Indigenous communities is the staff, your staff, are leaders, right? They're grandmas, they're aunties, and those folks have got jobs when it comes to that grieving process and all those things that have to happen, right? And so you have to be comfortable as the principal to say, go do your job. We'll figure this out, right? We'll figure school out. We'll make the coverage work, but it's super important that they go fill those roles and make sure that the families that are suffering that trauma and working through that grief get the support they need. Make sure everybody's taken care of the best you can, and make sure that everybody has the space they need to do the things they need to support those families the best that you can.
Now, what would you say to someone considering going into school leadership or principalship in a northern community?
You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to learn a lot fast, and you're going to meet some amazing people, and you're going to meet some amazingly resilient people. And the teachers who teach in those schools, especially if they do it for a while, are going to be amazing teachers, and you're going to have an opportunity to do all those things that it might take you 20 years to actually experience in a southern school. And you're going to have an opportunity to work in a different cultural milieu that is amazing and in flux, and you're going to be able to watch all that happen and be a small part of it. So I think those are the advantages, and you're going to meet some incredible kids, and you're going to meet some amazing parents who are young and engaged and wanting to make things better. I mean, with all the chaos, there's opportunity to do some amazing things, right? And people are probably more open to a little bit of crazy because it is pretty crazy.
So overall, in terms of being a principal, what are 2 stars and 2 wishes? 2 things you really like about it and 2 things you really wish about it.
I love the people. I love the opportunity to make a difference. I love the opportunity to play with ideas and play with innovation and making things better and trying something and putting those things forward in ways that you can't as a teacher, right? Because you have resources and you have budget and you can maybe move the ball a little bit further than you could as just in the classroom. So that's what I really like about it. And I love the people that I work with, and I love how smart they are, and I love how passionate they are. And on good days, it's a lot of fun. We have a hoot around here. 2 things that I really wish would be a little bit better. In the last 10 years, no one's really tried to make our lives better or give us more support, right? We always seem to be in a place where there's less support, there's less resources, and the needs just seem to be increasing. And in the general public, there doesn't seem to be that willingness to say, okay, what can we do to help here? So we're struggling with that. The other thing is I would really like for people to understand how it works more. Everybody's an expert. Everybody knows exactly how schools run, right? Because we all went to school, and I know exactly what a teacher's job is, and I know exactly how a school runs. So why can't you people do with 6 less teachers? And why are you always calling me because my kid is great at home, right? And they don't understand those dynamics. They don't understand the complexity. And those are the things that I wish we could, as a profession, communicate better and have a little bit more give from the general population and our decision makers. Like, we have problems, we have challenges. Instead of being at each other all the time.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say to new principals or vice principals?
I think the biggest part of our job is building capacity in our folks, right? And we need to make sure that every day grows a little bit. And if you're doing that, then you're gonna be pretty successful, and your job should get a little easier every day because someone else is helping, and they're growing, and they feel pretty positive about their job, and they want to come to work, and they want to come to school. And I think that's the biggest part of being a good school leader. Is it's the ultimate people business. And if you're not into people, please don't sign up for educational administration, because that's what this is. And if we're growing our people, then I think we're in good shape.
Steve, the last word goes to you.
I don't think the word restorative has come up, and yet everything you have said falls into the restorative approach. That we talk about working with people, not just doing things to that. Let's get rid of that authoritarian stuff and let's start working with people in an authoritative manner. Building relationships is a cornerstone of restorative practices. And how do we intentionally build those relationships?
Being a principal is being in a relational profession. If you're not good at the relationship piece, Jason advises that you not go into school administration. It's important for principals to invest time in building relationships with parents and teachers to create a supportive environment for student learning. Find out more about our work with restorative practices and relational ways of leading at www.restorative.ca. You can email me, stan@restorative.ca. In your capacity as a school leader, build the capacity of others in your school building and in your community.